So, you're thinking about moving to Houston, Texas, or maybe you live in Houston, Texas, and you're just concerned, well, what do I need to know about hurricanes, flooding, preparation? Maybe you moved here from somewhere else, or maybe you're considering moving to Houston. Well, stick around because we came up with the top 5 hacks, the top 5 things you need to know if you're considering living here in Houston, Texas. What's up, everybody? This is Kerry Fletcher, and I'm part of the MEMS group right here in Houston, Texas. If you're new to Houston or considering moving to Houston, and you want to know anything and everything there is about living here in this city, Houston, Texas, the best city in the world, best big little city in the world, well, you need to hit subscribe, click that little notification bell so that you can have the place to go for all the research. Listen, we get phone calls, text messages, emails from people all the time trying to figure out where they need to go, what they need to do. So reach out to us. Call us. Send that little carrier pigeon our way, and we'll be sure and get right back to you. Now, transitioning into the top 5 things you need to know about flooding, hurricanes here in Houston, Texas. You're going to want to stick around to the end because the most important one, the one that you absolutely have to know, we save for last. So number 1, your mama told you this, your grandmama told you this, everybody's told you this, but you know better. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. What other industry, what other profession around can you be wrong over 50% of the time and still be considered a credible, reliable source of information and have millions of people tuning into you? Well, that's the weatherman, right? One thing I can tell you for sure is that most of the time they're going to get it wrong. Either the hurricane's going to strengthen when they say it's going to weaken, or it's going to take an unexpected path at the last minute. So even if you don't think, and everybody in the news is telling you this is going to go this way or that way, if you feel like it's got a shot of impacting you, you need to take the responsibility and be prepared. You know, we just went through, it's 2020, right? Everything's a little bit crazy, so we had the double hurricanes of Laura and Marco. First of all, Marco was supposed to strengthen, it weakened. It was supposed to go one way and it just sort of petered out. Laura was supposed to die down before it hit, but it just took off and really became a much more powerful storm than anybody ever predicted. New Orleans, Houston, just thank God that it didn't take an unexpected turn, that all it did was increase. And our hearts go and prayers go out to those, in that middle area of Cameron, Lake Charles, Orange, West Orange, Stark, Vidor, that have been so heavily impacted by this hurricane. So what do I mean about prevention, being prepared? First and foremost, clean up your surroundings, right? You don't want any sort of projectiles going through your house, your neighbor's house. So potted plants, tools, anything around the yard. Kids and I spent the better part of 2 days driving around to friends and family, helping them clean up and prepare for this thing, even though we didn't even get a drop of rain or much of wind here in the greater Houston area. Have non-perishable foods, right? You don't want to be, if the power is out, and you don't want to be going in and out of your fridge, in and out of your freezer for your food sources. Canned foods, dried beans, you name it. Also, some sort of natural gas source. If you don't have a natural gas oven, a natural gas stove, some way of preparing your food, when the power goes out, you need to have some sort of propane, butane backup supply. Fill up the bathtubs. I had a call from a good friend of mine, just moved in here from Portland, Oregon, and I was going through sort of this preparation checklist with him, and he's like, oh, fill up the bathtubs. That way you can take a bath or whatever. I was like, no. Fill up the bathtubs so that you have water to flush the toilets if there's a water supply issue and they have all the water cut off to you. and also so that you have a backup water for food preparation, right? And also a backup water for if things get really bad, you have some sort of limited supply for, for potable water. So last, and probably most importantly of being prepared, make sure that you have your supply of bottled water to get you through at least 3+ days for everybody. And the preparation there is about a gallon of water per person per day on hand. And that brings me to my second most important one. Make your decisions, make your preparations, do it ahead of time. Don't wait around to the last minute. And what I'm talking about there is two things. Kind of this question of should I stay or should I go? What do I need to have on hand? We live in a just-in-time inventory world, whether that be the gas at the gas station, the water. We all know from earlier this year, right, when everybody started getting crazy and had to be locked down, how limited our supply of toilet paper was. Well, that happens every time here in the Houston area when you have some sort of flooding event. If you wait around to the last minute, or if you make that decision after or during the middle of when everybody else is making that decision, you're a little bit too late, right? You could get on that, you could make the decision to leave, get on the road, run out of gas, not have your gas tank filled up. You could be going down to the HEB like I was at the last minute. I wasn't getting water, I was already prepared, but there was a last minute snack or something we were having, and it was crazy out there, and there was no water left. It was some bare pickings. So make your decisions, make your preparations early. And as far as that should I stay or should I go decision, it's really up to you. If you have friends and family that you can stay with easily, get on out of town. Go, use it as an excuse, especially now that so many of us are working remotely anyway. It's one less person, one less family, one less person that we have to worry about. Head on out. If you wait around to the time that they start doing mandatory evacuation, forced evacuations, traffic, gasoline, problems galore. So make your decision to leave, make it early. Don't wait around to the last minute. Number 3, what areas are prone to flooding? What areas aren't? I help people all the time find their ideal home here in Houston, and I gotta tell you, they go around, they're searching, and it seems to be sort of an afterthought, sort of oh, I wonder if this area is in a flood zone. I wonder if this house has been flooded before. Make it your first decision. Understand that there are areas that have flooded before, that now the houses are built up in such an area that they're actually safer or better than other areas that haven't flooded before. But just make that part of your decision-making process first, not last. I had some clients came here, relocated from the Denver, Colorado area, Castle Rock area, right? And they ended up buying in Meyerland. Well, Meyerland, as anybody who knows here in Houston, has a history of flooding. It got hit hard several times. But the house that they bought was, I think, a full 2 feet above the 500-year floodplain, which is actually higher than most homes here in the Heights. There's a couple of tools. I'll leave them down in the comment or in the description section. It's called the DFIR. That's the Digital Flood Insurance Map. DFIR. Now every county has it, so I'll put a link in there for Harris County's flood mapping, for Fort Bend County's flood mapping, for Montgomery County's flood mapping, so that you have a link and you can go there and check it out. The other things that you need to take into consideration is yes, it's science, yes, it's based off of real data, but every flood event, every hurricane event, every day, those things are being updated because investments are being made to dig out bayous, build up berms, new retaining places are being built. Sometimes the weather patterns are different. Sometimes there's building and construction that happens out further out that impact the flood zones here. So it's always changing, and don't think that just because it's never flooded before that it won't flood sometime in the future. Cousins of ours had lived in this house since 1980 some odd, early 80s, and never flooded. Been through some of the worst floods in U.S. history, never flooded. We go off to a wedding up in Boston together, and that's when Harvey hits, and come to find out their house was the last house on the street, took in water, and it flooded for the first time. It had never been in a flood map, never been in a flood zone. Previously, West U had never been considered flood prone or in a flood zone, but now after Harvey and some of the others, the vast majority of West University, West U, is either in a 100 or a 500-year floodplain. Brings me to point number 5, which is the most important one, that no matter where you live, no matter where you decide to buy a house, no matter what elevation your house is at, if you're living in and around the Houston area, you need to get flood insurance. You need to have it. And my personal advice to you is don't scrimp. Don't get that cheapo, barely cover. You need to have good flood insurance. It's a worthwhile investment. Because here's what happens. You get a flood insurance and maybe it'll cover for some repairs. But what happens when you need a place to live for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months? You need to be sure that you're getting the best flood insurance possible so that you have peace of mind, so that you have protection. I have heard so many countless stories from friends and family that has just been a life-changing event for them because they took the forethought to go ahead and get that insurance and not scrimp on it. And when the flood did come, and when they were going through this life-changing event, they had the support that they needed. Well, hey, for those of you who've stuck around to the end, thank you so much for joining me. Come on back. We're going to be doing videos every week, multiple videos every week. So come on back in and check in with us. And until next time, see you later.